on all the tables. We're going to do sort of a Q&A thing. Also, there are 2 prints there. There's a reproduction of the print in the book near the end. So we'll be doing the draw for the 2 prints. Brendan McNally will now entertain us.
And I brought
First time I ever actually saw Jimmy George was in an apartment building on Osgood Street, across the hall from my girlfriend's apartment. Some friends just started this band called Jimmy George, and they were rehearsing and figuring out what Jimmy George was going to be. The hottest ticket, with a sound that bassist Steve Donnelly describes in Rules of the Road, which is this book, as a wall of cacophony, and an audience made up of merry revelers pogo dancing along. Here's a story of one of those players who played a part and bass while going on his very own musical ride in a little green bus, along with the Kings of the Duke, Jimmy George. Thank you.
You love me and you're sorry you go. I looked at your face and I cried. Looked and I cried.
At the Q&A section of the thing. Something I didn't know actually until I talked to him recently. So one of Larry's bands, Rove, which was a band in the 90s that I was aware of because I coincidentally designed a logo for them, which was super random as well, subbed in for Jimmy George. So we were gone to the UK, and there's a big chunk of the book about that for a month. So other bands subbed in for us on Sundays while we were away, and a couple of the Jimmy George guys stayed behind. So I mean, I basically included everything. I sort of like anonymized certain things or left certain things a little bit vague. But I pretty much included everything, and sort of the initial thing was just anecdotes, like interesting tour stories, and then I started to get into the more personal stuff. And I was kind of about that, but the initial people that I mentioned, my brother and Brendan and Slow Tom and Eric, all said, well, the personal stuff is what makes it your story and not just a bunch of generic tour stories that could have happened to anyone. And then once the structure started to come together, it was like, well, I want to really start with the Duke, because that's kind of a good way to break into things, and then there's kind of, it flashes back to the earlier stuff, and then it jumps back forward, so that it's not just a strictly chronological, historical thing. There's a little bit of interest in it.
Woke up this morning, this is how I felt. Fucking lit under my bed, time itself. Now pictures of pictures don't do much good under frames of glass and panes of wood. Wish I could. Don't take the credit, don't take the blame. Don't be proud, don't be ashamed. It's your skull, I gotta get this through. It's got nothing to do with I'm rolling and I'm gonna make it home tonight. Stops 6 days on the road and I'm gonna make it home tonight.
All right, thanks everyone for coming out.